The Puppy Place, Maggie and Max by Ellen Miles. Hey, Ava, what chapter are we on?
10.
Are we almost done with this book?
I think, yeah.
I think this is the last chapter. Here we go. What are you so happy about? Sammy asked Charles. You keep smiling. Come on, tell me. Charles shook his head. You'll find out. I better, said Sammy, and you owe me a humongous favor for agreeing to recite The Night Before Christmas all by myself. It was Christmas Eve, and the boys were in the back of the van on their way to the nest along with the other scouts. Charles was happy. He had been working hard all week, but it was worth it. He had solved 2 big problems. 1, how to find a home for a puppy and a kitten that could not be separated. And 2, how to find a poem he could memorize for tonight's showcase. The second problem was the easiest. Charles had figured out that if he wrote his own poem, he wouldn't have such a hard time remembering it. He didn't even have to figure out the form for the poem. He just used The Night Before Christmas as a model, but changed the words the same way the Cub Scouts changed their words for familiar songs like It's a Small World. Charles thought the poem had turned out pretty well. Maybe he would be a writer someday. Sorry, I'm still here.
Oh, okay.
Like his mother. He would have liked to teach the poem to Sammy, but he'd only finished it the night before. Anyway, that would ruin the surprise, which had to do with problem 1. And Charles wanted everyone to be surprised, including his own family, the families at the nest, and all the scouts. Well, there was one person who was in on the surprise, but that person wouldn't tell either. The Petersons' van pulled up to the nest. At the same time, Lizzie, Mom, and the Bean arrived with Max and Maggie. The scouts piled out of the van, excited to be at the nest. Why are the cats always here when we read?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I changed.
Sorry. They're excited to be at the nest on Christmas Eve. Charles went over to help his mom and ended up carrying Max up the front walk while Lizzie walked Maggie. The door swung open before Dad could even ring the bell. They're here, shouted Evan. Merry Christmas, Max. Merry Christmas, Maggie. Merry Christmas, Charlie. Merry Christmas, Charles's family.
Bless you, Ginger.
Behind him, Mr. Baker laughed. And Merry Christmas to all our sweet scout friends, too, he said. We have recently enjoyed having you boys here every week. Come in, come in. The nest was warm and bright with Christmas lights that draped all around the front desk and led down the hall. It smelled good, too, like turkey and stuffing, and Charles took a big sniff. Apple pie? He asked Mr. Baker. You bet. Made it myself, Mr. Baker patted Charles on the shoulder. How about if you and I get Max and Maggie settled in the rec room? Lizzie could use your help in the dining room tonight, okay? Lizzie shrugged. Sure. She handed Maggie's leash to Mr. Baker and followed Mom and Dad and the scouts down the hall. So, is everything all set? Mr. Baker asked. Mr. Baker asked Charles in a low voice as they walked with the animals toward the rec room. Charles nodded. All set. Excellent. Mr. Baker pushed open the door to the rec room, and Beverly came over to welcome the animals. You won't have any visitors tonight, Bev, Mr. Baker said. At least not once the showcase gets going. Fine with me, Beverly answered. Maggie and Max and I have some catching up to do anyway. Charles gave the puppy and kitten each a quick pat, then followed Mr. Baker to the dining room. Sammy was waiting for him by the mashed potato station, ready to Ready to tell yet? He asked as Charles took his place. Charles just shook his head and pretended to zip his lips. Dinner went by in a blur, and before he knew it, Charles had helped to move tables aside and set up chairs. In a few minutes, the dining room had been converted into a theater, with rows of chairs facing a platform where the performers would appear. Charles felt his hands getting sweaty. He gulped. All too soon, he would be up there on that platform, performing in front of a whole bunch of people. He took a deep breath and tried to relax. After all, these people weren't strangers anymore. He'd been serving them for weeks now, and he'd gotten to know most of the nest's residents pretty well, especially the kids, of course. Before they let the audience in, Mr. Baker stood up in front of all the volunteers and explained how the showcase would work. The performers would sit in the back row. He would introduce each one in turn, and they would come up on stage and do their thing. Then go back and sit down. At the end of the evening, everybody would come up on stage together for one last bow. "Are you ready?" Mr. Baker asked. He went and opened the doors. The audience flooded in and found their seats, and the showcase began. Sammy was third, after a scout who sang Silent Night, and a funny skit by Charles's mom and dad. Charles was impressed by how well his friends recited The Night Before Christmas. Sammy didn't make one mistake. Charles gave him a high five when he got back to his seat. Then they sat together and watched all the other volunteers perform. The audience loved everything. Then Charles saw Mr. Baker look at him and give a secret wink. As Charles made his way to the front of the room, Mr. Baker disappeared, dipping out through a side door. For a second, standing up there in front of everyone, Charles felt his hands go all sweaty. His knees felt like jello. But then he looked at all the audience and spotted Evan, who smiled and waved. Charles took a deep breath. "Hi, everybody. Merry Christmas. I wrote a special poem just for tonight." His voice was a little squeaky, so he cleared his throat. So here it is. Then he began. "'Twas the night before Christmas, a time to be glad, but inside the nest, lots of people were sad. They lay there wishing that Santa would say, 'Merry Christmas to all. Max and Maggie can stay.' But that wouldn't happen, as everyone knew. If one pet was a handful, how could they keep two? Mr. Baker's so busy with the nest in his care, he can't handle one pet, much less have a pair. Danny loves dogs, but he doesn't have space, and he isn't allowed to keep pets in his place. Miranda loves cats, but their fur brings on sneezing, and how could she answer the phone if she's wheezing? Beverly's got all the kids in her care. Just think of the noise with two animals there. But wait, look outside. Can you hear Santa's call? He's bringing the nest the best presents of all." Just then Mr. Baker reappeared in the doorway. But now he was dressed up like Santa in a red suit and a very obvious fake white beard. He walked down the aisle, leading Maggie on her bright red Christmas leash. Maggie carried a bag, red and white striped, knitted stocking in her mouth, and in the stocking was Max. His bright eyes looking all around, the audience broke into excitement and whispers and giggles from the stage. Charles even saw Evan's face light up when he saw his favorite animal friends. Soon Mr. Baker was standing next to Charles. They smiled at each other. Now it was Mr. Baker's turn to finish the poem. He faced the audience and began. "I thought and I thought to come up with a way for our dear Max and Maggie to come here to stay. Two pets are a handful for one person, it's true, but with everyone's help, look at what we can do." Beverly, Danny, Miranda, and me will pitch in together to make it easy, you see. The kids can help too, each night and each day, so Merry Christmas to all. Max and Maggie can stay. For a second, the whole room was quiet. Then the audience burst into cheers and applause. Suddenly, Charles felt almost as if he might start crying, so he quickly knelt down and threw his arms around Maggie's big fur neck. Charles could hardly believe he had finally gotten Mr. Baker to change his mind. It had taken a lot of work to convince him, but Mr. Baker had finally understood that if everyone at the nest pitched in, they could take care of both the puppy and the kitten. I think you both have found a wonderful home, Charles whispered to Maggie and Max. Merry Christmas. The end. This back page has some puppy tips and a little note to the reader from the author. That was a really good book, Ava Ann.
Yeah, it was.
Did you like it?
Yeah.
I think we might get some more Puppy Place books.
Yep.
That was a thumbs up from us.
Yep.
Hey, can you tell people thanks for reading with us?
Thank you for reading with us. Bye, guys.